I never pictured myself as the kind of man who would hide cameras in his own home. But doubt has a strange way of creeping in slow at first, then all at once. It wasn't one big moment that tipped me over the edge. It was the little things, the way she smiled at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking, how conversations would pause the second I entered the room, the late nights at work that became routine. I told myself I was overthinking, that after nearly 10 years together, minus one of them married, I should trust her. Her name was Lily. She had been my best friend, my safe place. But suddenly, the woman I loved felt distant. Like I was reaching out to someone who was already walking away. At first, I blamed myself. I chalked it up to work stress, to my imagination, to the fear of losing something I cherished too much. But that unease sat heavy on my chest day after day until I couldn't ignore it anymore. So, against everything I thought I stood for, I gave in to the suspicion. I bought cameras small, hidden, silent observers placed carefully around our home. I told myself it was only to ease my mind, that I'd feel ridiculous afterward and tear them all down. I hoped for that. For days, everything seemed normal. Lily moved through the house as she always had, cooking, texting, sipping her wine while flipping through shows on the couch. I started to feel ashamed, like I had crossed a line I couldn't come back from. But then came Thursday. She said she had to stay late again, cheerful, casual. Like it was just another workday. I was meant to meet a friend for drinks the evening. But something in me pulled me back. I canceled, stayed home, and watched the feed instead. Nothing happened for hours. Then, just past 10 o'clock, the front door opened. Lily stepped in, and she wasn't alone. A man walked in behind her, tall, confident, like he belonged there. She didn't look nervous or guilty. She looked relaxed, almost happy. He smiled. And she smiled back, that same smile I used to think was mine alone. They moved to the couch. She sat close. His hand rested gently on her shoulder. She laughed at something he said. Then she leaned in and kissed him. And I just sat there, silent, not moving. As the life I thought I had dissolved right in front of me. I watched it all. Couldn't look away. It wasn't anger that took over. It was something colder, deeper, a hollow kind of numbness that wrapped around me like a second skin. I must have replayed that clip over and over that night, desperate to find some shred of doubt, some alternate angle or explanation. But there was none, just the raw, unfiltered truth. She had betrayed me, not in a moment of weakness, but in comfort. She looked like she belonged in that moment, not with me, but with him. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't throw accusations or demand answers. I simply sat in silence, breathing the same air as the woman who no longer felt like mine. She carried on as if nothing had changed, talked about upcoming holidays, about silly movies and our plans for the future, but her words felt like static to me, noise without meaning. I nodded when I had to. I smiled when expected, but I wasn't really there. I became a ghost in my own home. Each night I'd lie in bed beside her, pretending to sleep, pretending not to remember. But I remembered everything, the kisses, the laughter, the way she looked at someone else, the way she used to look at me. Still, some part of me kept checking the footage, not out of obsession, but disbelief. I needed to be sure it was real because accepting it meant accepting that the woman who once held my hand through storms had now become the one who caused them. Then one day, it all came crashing down. I got home early, far earlier than she expected. As I opened the door, I heard her in the kitchen, laughing softly into her phone. Her voice light and playful. Not for me, not anymore. I didn't barge in. I just stood there and listened. And in that moment, I felt something inside me quietly break. Not with fury, not with pain, but with finality. I was done. Later that evening, she hummed to herself while cooking dinner. Everything about her seemed light, content, but I couldn't fake it anymore. I walked into the kitchen, calm and quiet. She turned, smiling, That familiar smile I had once lived for. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady. She blinked. "Is everything okay?" "I know," I replied. Her smile faltered. "Know what?" I didn't say anything. I just pulled out my phone, opened the video, and pressed play. Her betrayal unfolded once again on the screen in full color. She stared at it, her face slowly draining of life. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked into a whisper. "It's not what it looks like." A bitter, humorless laugh escaped me. "No, Lily, it's exactly what it looks like." She collapsed to the floor, sobbing, clinging to my leg, begging me to listen. "I'm sorry, please. I made a mistake. I love you. We can fix this." But her apologies were meaningless, just empty words clawing at a version of me that no longer existed. "You're not sorry you did it," I said, stepping back from her. "You're sorry you got caught." She cried harder, promised it would never happen again. But the man who had once believed in her, he was already gone. I looked down at her one last time. "Goodbye, Lily." And then I walked out. No shouting, no dramatic farewell, just silence, the kind that speaks of peace after a long internal war. That night, I packed a small bag, enough to leave, not to run, just to breathe. She tried to reach me afterward. Messages, missed calls, long emails filled with memories and regret. I didn't reply. Not because I hated her, but because there was nothing left to say. I found a small apartment, started over. Nights were hard at first. Memories crept in like ghosts, but eventually they faded. What remained was clarity. I forgave her, not for her sake, but for mine. Because betrayal doesn't just end a relationship, it breaks a piece of you that once believed in love without conditions. She didn't lose me when I saw the video. She lost me the day she chose to love someone else in secret. And I found myself the moment I realized I didn't need her to feel whole. Closure didn't come from her tears or her explanations. It came the moment I walked away and didn't look back.